Tennille, you'd be happy to know I only went 5 pieces.
Only 5? Thanks for saving me one. I'm glad this worked. Like, Zoom was being so weird. Hi, Haley. I know I can't see you, but hi.
Hello.
Hello.
Ooh, people are going to start jumping on.
I know I'm always awkwardly early, so I just didn't have my video.
Awkwardly early.
Yeah.
You guys found the link on the website, correct?
Mm-hmm. It works.
Okay, because Dave can't find it.
Oh my gosh. Come on, Dave.
Oh, I see. Halfway down. That's what he said. Okay. There he is.
I'm a little technology challenged, Tennille.
No, you're not. You've gotten so much better. All your PowerPoints. Here,
I'm going
to make you the host.
Okay.
Okay. And I'm going to pin your video.
Oh, are you going to be thinking about playing it?
Oh, no. I was pinning you, like you in the frame.
Gotcha. See, I don't know the terminology.
And then as we get started, because more people are hopping on, do you want me to read questions from people? Like, we can have them type them in the chat box and then I can read them to you?
Sounds good.
Okay.
Do you want to address the couple of common questions first, Tennille? Like booking? Asking about booking?
Yeah. And I've had other people send me some questions too. So, well, let's wait a second to make sure everyone hops on.
Oh, yeah. No, I mean, when we first...
Like the biggest question.
Right, okay.
Debbie, you're looking good in that brace.
Oh, man.
She's had rotator cuff surgery.
Oh, I hear that's so painful. We can't hear you, Debbie.
Oh, Deb, you got to unmute yourself.
I'll mute her. Oh,
there we go.
Not my favorite thing I've ever had, but it's good.
Oh my God, you are so incredible because I just hear people say it's awful. So.
Well, I was supposed to do it 2 days before they shut it down, or 2 days after. So then I had to wait till they opened it up again. So I kind of,
right.
It would have been better to have it done before.
Mm.
Yes, but it's good.
Good for you. Just ping Jeanette if she wants to jump on.
You said Jeanette started jumping on?
I just sent her a text so she could jump on as well.
So as we wait for others to hop on, good morning, by the way, everybody. I think how we're going to do this, hopefully you've seen the video that Dave, that we posted yesterday. But I think the best way to do this, just so there's not so many questions coming in at a time, type them in the chat box, and then I'll, I guess, be the moderator for Dave, and we can do it that way. Does that sound good?
Mm-hmm.
Dave, I was going to come up with a really good bio for you, but I decided against it.
No. Don't worry about that. especially since it sounds like it would have been embarrassing. So.
Well, that's all I could come up with for
Hey, Tennille, does everyone know where the chat box is?
the member of a lot of committees. Chat box is in the bottom. So if you're using your phone, are you on your phone, David?
Oh.
It's on the bottom of your phone or the bottom of your computer screen. Type your questions here, Coach David.
Do you want to get started, Tennille? Do you want me to just cover some basic things, or do you want to hold off a little bit?
I had a suspicion that this is going to be the top question from Josh Brothers. The biggie everyone is wondering about: what will the booking/signing up for classes look like? Do you want to answer that, Dave, or don't?
What will the process look like? Yeah. So. Yeah. Basically, good morning, everybody. By the way, thanks for joining us here on a Saturday morning, and we miss you guys terribly. The weather's beautiful outside, so I hope you guys don't feel like, well, you don't even want to come back because the weather's just so nice outside. But the way the process is going to work is that everybody's going to get an email on the 16th. That's on Saturday, and basically that's going to announce that our opening on the 23rd. And that you will be unfrozen as of that date, unless you click, there's a link at the bottom that you can click to if you opt to do something else, like you want to extend your freeze. And so there is that option if you don't want to come off freeze on the opening date to click on another link. It takes you to another page, you can fill out some information, and then we will get in contact with you to kind of understand what you would like to do. And we want you to know that, by the way, we have a very high degree of sensitivity during this time, and know that people are going through a lot of financial hardship. They have other concerns out there. They may have a loved one that's under special circumstances. So we want to be super accommodating to you guys, and I hope you kind of feel that way in the way that we treat you after we open. So after you get the email to basically opt in to be unfrozen as of the 23rd, 2 days later, we're going to post the schedule, the class schedule. So that's on Monday, the 18th, I believe. And when that schedule is posted, you will have the ability then to book your classes. So even though you're not technically an active member, you'll still be able to book your classes. So you'll see the full class schedule. The class times are going to look very, very similar to what you're used to. We're not taking away essentially any classes. The times may have shifted a little bit, because what we've done is we're trying to give people as much access as possible to classes, meaning because we have to live with certain constraints and restrictions per city guidelines, the number of people that we can actually have in any class has been reduced. And so because of that, we wanted to provide more opportunity for people to get into classes. So we're going to be holding classes on the hour generally in the mornings, for example. And they're going to be 45-minute classes. So that way we can kind of run classes every hour and still have that gap between classes to do the cleaning we need to do. So you'll see like a 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and I think we might even have a 10. Is that right, David? Yeah, so we might have a 10 a.m. And then, by the way, we're also going to look at, and then there'll of course be the evening classes. We're going to look at other class times that normally wouldn't have been that great for you guys under the old, back in the old days. But now with so many people working from home, we want to hear from you guys as to whether, like, hey, at 1 o'clock in the afternoon or 11 a.m. or something like that would also work just fine for you. Just again, provide more opportunities to get into classes. And so we want to do what makes sense. And if those happen to be good times for people, we will add more classes to the schedule. So we don't know I think the exact time that the schedule is going to be released. I guess we can announce that. I think we'll probably have a social media post that will say, hey, class schedule will be released on Monday at this time. And then you guys can go in and book your classes. There'll still be wait lists available for certain class times as well. One thing to keep in mind that is going to be a restriction going forward is only being able to book one class per day, because we want to give other people a chance to get into some classes. And so there's going to be a restriction on being able to book through your app for more than one class a day. Doesn't mean you can't actually take more than one class. You just wouldn't be able to pre-book it on the app.
Yeah, I just had that question actually. Someone asked if they could book back-to-back 45-minute classes. And I think the answer to that is they can book one 45-minute class, they can stay, or they can call in, correct? And have a front desk, an MC book it. A second.
So let's say they want to do back-to-back class. They wouldn't be able to pre-book that back-to-back class. What you would be asked to do is after the first class to stand outside. We do have to have everybody exit the facility. We have to do our cleaning. We have to kind of maintain certain protocols. And most of the staff is going to be inside the studio cleaning. So we won't always have a person right at the front door, because we're anticipating that members would not be coming in until about 5 minutes before the class. And we're actually going to be announcing that we generally don't want people coming in more than 5 minutes before the class. That gives us the time to have the staff dedicated to doing cleaning and not having to man the front door. For those of you that didn't see the video, there's going to be, at the front door, we're going to be doing temperature screening. So there's a non-contact infrared digital thermometer that we use that basically gets pointed at your forehead and reads the temperature in 1 second. And anyone with a temperature of 100.4 or above, which is the CDC guideline for what determines whether a person has a fever, will be denied entry. So we're not going to allow anybody into the studio that has a fever. We're also going to go through a verbal symptom check with everybody. We'll have a poster available so you can kind of read the poster as far as what the symptoms are. And you need to give us a verbal confirmation that you are not experiencing any of those symptoms to be allowed into the facility. The employees also go through that same screening process when they show up for work. And then we're going to be asking you to sanitize your hands. So we're going to have a sanitizer dispenser right at the front door. So we basically want to get all germs off people's hands, make sure we have them confirm with us that they're not feeling any symptoms. And it's just one of multiple layers we have of protection that we want to create. So it doesn't guarantee somebody walking in isn't asymptomatic, but we have a series of other safety protocols in place, that allow us to really minimize the risk to the absolute bare minimum. I don't know if I even got off track on what the question was now. I tend to do that. I go off on these tangents.
No, I think you answered it. It was just the booking back to classes.
Yeah, I never even answered the question. So basically what we're asking you to do is, if you want to take back-to-back classes, to stand outside and then wait till 5 minutes. Sorry, it'd be beyond 5 minutes, because what will end up happening is you'll basically be on standby for the next class. We're going to wait till the next group comes in. If there's space, then we would allow you into the class. So, I did that. For those of you that saw the video, when I in my mind, I was very conscious of saying, keep it to like 2 minutes. People can't sit for, they don't want to sit for a long video, right? 2 minutes. And when I finished, I said, I think that was like 3. And then it's not until Tennille posted on YouTube, and then I replayed it, and it said 7 minutes and change. And I was like, what? 7 minutes? I don't know.
That's the shortest video yet, though.
I know. So sorry.
No worries. So, okay, couple questions regarding mask required classes and mask free classes. What % of the classes will be mask required versus mask free?
Yeah, and Jeff, hi Jeff. I know you asked that question. We don't have a firm number yet. We want to get feedback from you guys on this. Here's the dilemma we have. If we run a class mask free, we have to space you all out by 10 feet. What that means is we have to restrict our class load to the number of pieces of equipment we have in the class. So for example, in South Jordan, we have 14 treadmills, 14 rowers, 14 stations in the workout area. And we'd have to basically only allow 14 total, and then spread that 14 out over those 3 areas to allow for 10-foot spacing. That's a pretty significant reduction in the number of people that would be in the class. If we run a class with masks, it's 6-foot spacing, and we can get, for example, 21 people in a class in South Jordan. So we're trying to balance we want to give people enough access so they can actually get into classes, while also providing opportunities for people that if they just feel like they just do not want to work out in a mask, that there are those classes as well. So we'll try to figure out, maybe we need to play around with that for the first couple of weeks to kind of see how that goes in terms of Are we meeting the needs of the members in terms of their preferences? What I would ask you to do, because I was one of those guys that were just like, I was fighting corporate tooth and nail in this because they were going to make masks mandatory across every state, regardless of whether it was required locally or statewide. And I argued that, hey, we should abide by federal guidelines, state and local guidelines, and not necessarily impose special restrictions per Orange Theory, unless it's got to do with cleanliness and other things that, you know, we just feel like are part of our brand. And so I was not thrilled with the prospect of wearing a mask. We have investigated 2 sources for masks. One's for a company out of Orem, and the owner is actually a member of Orange Theory. And another company that we're sourcing from out of California is the largest swimsuit manufacturer in the country. And so they're making the masks out of Lycra and spandex, and they're like stretchable, breathable fabrics. And so I've tried one for the company out of Orem, and it was initially first couple of minutes when I was running, I was like, you know, not crazy about this. And then I kind of got used to it. I mean, it's you know, you don't breathe in and out the same way, but it's very breathable and it's a pretty comfortable mask. And so what I'd love to see if you guys can be open-minded to is maybe try it and see what your experience is like. And keep in mind, what we're trying to achieve in the workout is to get you up to a certain intensity level during the course of that workout. And so, and get your calorie burn and to get your splat points. And basically you're going to be able to get there at a lower pace with a mask on, of course, right? Because your breathing is a little bit restricted. And so if that's generally your goal, is that, hey, I'm trying to achieve a certain amount of splat points, I'm trying to get a certain calorie burn, that kind of thing, you will still achieve that while running at a lower pace than you used to before. And so if you can kind of deal with a little bit of the, you know, not focusing so much on achieving a personal best or thinking you have to be at where you were previously. So if you were running a push pace at 7 miles an hour, and now you're at 6 miles an hour, but your heart rate response is the same, that's really what the goal of the workout is. And so if you can kind of suspend your focus on, I want to get back to the push pace I was before, you know, if you can put that aside for a couple of months and just recognize you're still getting the same intensity, same calorie burn, same heart rate response, then I think you'd settle into feeling like, you know, this isn't bad. This isn't that bad of an experience. But, you know, for those who just say, you know, I hear what you're saying, but I just don't want to do it. We will have those class options available. And by the way, on the face coverings, it's really up to the members. Orange Theory really didn't even want us to get involved in masks, and I just felt like we needed to have some good options available for people. Otherwise, they're going to come in with disposable masks and different things that are really not designed for, you know, our kind of workout. And ours isn't perfect either. Ours is not the solution for an interval training workout, but it's a lot better than the other mask options out there. But you could come in with a bandana draped over your nose. The state doesn't regulate what kind of mask you wear. They just want some kind of face covering over the nose and mouth. So you could have a loose fitting bandana over the bridge of your nose and maybe still feel like you're getting, you know, you're able to get enough oxygen in and out to simulate kind of the same experience. So that's another option too, that you may want to try kind of your own solution.
With the classes on the app, the question was, how will we know which class is a mask required class versus a mask free class?
I know we're trying to get.
I was just going to say it's depending on the capacity of the class, but I think we're also going to label it too.
Right, because they won't necessarily see the capacity, and so we're going to try to see if Orange Theory will allow us to put a special designation on, like NM for no mask or something like that. So that's something we're working on. Otherwise, we're going to have to probably put it on social media or stuff that's kind of like say, hey guys, just so you know, here are the no mask classes or something. So we'll try to get some form of communication out, but I know the best thing would be to have it right on the app. By the way, somebody asked about N95. N95, I would not recommend, because the masks that are really designed for really trying to block as much transmission as possible will be masks that are going to be very hard to breathe in and out of. And so that's not something I would recommend unless that's what people feel like that's going to make them safe.
Let's see, I'm going to try like all the mask questions answered. I'm just scrolling down. Go ahead, Dave.
Yeah, just so you guys know, it's a little, masks are a little, there's a lot of misinformation out there. Masks, and most masks out there are not designed to prevent you from actually getting germs, because they get absorbed into the mask. They're really designed to prevent you from spraying respiratory droplets and getting other people, infected. And so it's a form of protection in the sense that it's helping to prevent transmissions, but it's not. No mask is really great at restricting the absorption of fluids that may get on you. So that's why we just always we still want people to be careful, and we're going to deny people that are sneezing, coughing, into the studio. Even, by the way, if we see evidence of that during the workouts, if somebody comes in, they weren't exhibiting any symptoms, and they start sneezing or coughing, our approach for now is going to be we're going to ask them to leave. And I know we're going to have people that say have allergies and that kind of thing. We just can't run the risk right now, and we have to create this sense of security and safety for the other members to know that we're going to be very religious about abiding by certain restrictions right now.
So as I'm looking at some of these other questions about the masks, there's questions about how do we get the masks? Are we going to provide them? And I think you said them, Dave. We still have them available for people for purchase. Do we know how much they are yet?
They're going to be $5 or less, and we should be getting the batch in from the Orem company before we open, and you'll get a chance. We'll just have a sample out, so you'll get a chance to at least feel it and see how it works. And then the mask from the company out of California, that's should be available around that time as well. We just don't know if we'll have it in time for the opening, but yeah, we will have those. We will have those available.
Okay, moving along. So Haley was asking, where's that question? Let's see, something about looking at the email. Let's see. Okay. Haley asked, when we get the email, we don't do anything to opt back in, right? We only have to click on the link to extend our freeze or to opt out. Otherwise, the membership is active. Right,
and I think most of you guys know that your membership period gets extended, right? So when you went on freeze, we shut down on March 17th. If your billing date was March 15th, so you had just gotten billed before we closed down, your next bill would occur 28 days after we open. So you don't lose any time on your membership period. So everything gets shifted. So your billing date's going to change from what you had previously.
With regard to membership, Vanessa asked, can I unfreeze my membership but then refreeze if she decides she's not ready?
Absolutely. Yeah. So there are going to be different options available for freezing. There's a 14-day freeze that's available. So if folks come back and they just, let's just say they're not feeling all that great and they don't want to necessarily come in and until they kind of figure out what they may have, there's an option to go on a 14-day freeze. There's a 30-day option, 60-day, and 90-day option. And frankly, even beyond that, and after 90 days, what it becomes is at the owner's discretion. And if somebody's got some special circumstances, we've never denied anybody a chance to extend that if they need to. And then there's no charge, by the way. So when you go on freeze, there's no freeze fee that gets applied.
Hey, Dave, going back to what you talked about regarding allergies, for people who experience severe allergies, can they bring in like a doctor's note or something showing that, yes, this is allergies versus symptoms?
I raised that topic with Orange Theory, and they're leery about this because somebody could have both, right? They could have allergies, but they also could have symptoms of COVID, and that's where it just gets very tricky for us. And so unfortunately, I think early on, I think we have to be just very restrictive, and then maybe over time, as it looks like, okay, caseloads are down to next to nothing in the state, and so the risk factor is so low that maybe we can kind of loosen up some of these standards a little bit. But I think from the outset, I think we're going to be very, very careful about this. Now, we will have that air purifier ionization unit running that eliminates pollen, mold inside the studio. And so to the extent that your reaction generally is when you're just kind of like inhaling it all the time, that should be cleared out in the studio. And so I'm hoping that would resolve any of these issues that people generally are having reactions because it's, they're in the presence of it. That should be eliminated.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say too, is like, that's gonna be the best place to come to probably for your allergies because of the air purifiers. All right, let's see. Jenna Chatterley asked, are you decreasing the % of classes allowed for elite members and unlimited?
No.
Yeah, it's the same.
The same, yeah.
The only restriction as far as like booking classes, like what Dave mentioned, you can only book one class a day. If you do want to take a back-to-back class, you could call and reserve another class with one of our member consultants.
And by the way, the other thing to just keep in mind is another change is that there's going to be a 14-day booking window. So I think before it was 30 days or 28 days. It's now going to be 14 days. So every 7 days, the schedule will get released for the next 2-week period.
Oh, okay. This is a good question from Angie Hillis. Hi, Angie. I haven't seen you in a while. How is scheduling classes going to work? Will all the classes be 2G with less people? Will classes be available for everyone wanting to come back? So I guess just answer the class capacity, Dave, and how we're going to run the class. Like if instead of a 2G, we're doing 3G.
Yeah, I think you're going to see almost all the classes be 3G because that allows us to get more people in the class. And so right now we're erring on the side of access for people so they have an opportunity to get into classes. And so you probably won't see too much in the way of 2G classes. By the way, the other thing that I didn't address before is there still will be some 60-minute classes too. So you're going to see a lot of 45-minute classes on the schedule again, so we can just kind of get more classes on the schedule throughout the course of the day. But there still will be some 60-minute options as well. What was the second part, Tennille, again?
It was just basically how are the classes going to work. 3G, we're doing 3G, but we're spacing people out, so every class will be run as a 3G. Will classes be available for everyone wanting to come back?
So what we've, I guess we're going to have to see how many people reactivate their membership and how the class schedule looks and what the demand looks like. So that's something we're going to have to evaluate over time and try to be quick about, can we tweak some things on the schedule to give people more access. St. George just opened. One of the things we don't know is how many people are going to reactivate their membership. I can tell you in St. George, which opened yesterday, 30% of the members opted to extend their freeze. And so 70% of their members basically have decided to come back immediately. So we just don't know, what that percentage is going to look like by studio. I think we'll know shortly after we open what that's going to look like. And Haley, I'm actually seeing some of the questions, Tennille. But go ahead, Tennille,
oh, okay.
You prioritize it for me though. So.
Let's see. Josh asked, if you stay on freeze, what does opting back in later look like? Do you just call your studio to freeze?
Just call your studio to unfreeze again? So is that what the question is?
Probably.
If you stay frozen.
Yeah, my guess is that's what he was asking. So just the process of if they want to freeze and then come back.
Yeah, so even though there are these periods of 14, 30, 60, 90, it's at your discretion as far as when you want to unfreeze your membership. So, it's just a matter of contacting the studio, and that's a very simple process.
Let's see. Okay, if we are technically unfrozen yet, can we still work out at other studios outside of the Morrocco network? So like, I guess for instance, if someone were to come down to St. George, could they work out at the St. George studio?
So that's basically saying you're not an active member. If you're not unfrozen, you're not an active member. And so what you would be able to do is pay a drop-in fee if you just wanted to go take a workout here or there at a different arts theory studio. So you'd be treated like a normal guest and pay a drop-in fee, which is what I think it's pretty expensive. It's like 28 or something. Is that right?
Yeah.
It's pretty pricey to pay for individual classes.
Let's see here. Oh, one quick comment though, because Dave, you had mentioned that all the classes will be run as 45-minute classes. I did just want to mention that there are a couple studios, Holiday and Draper, that will be operating a lot of 1-hour classes. So if you really are like craving that 1-hour class versus a 45-minute class, feel free to schedule at those studios. And our schedule.
Just to add on to that too, there will be 60 minutes at the other studios too. They'll just be at different times. So not just Holiday and Draper.
Yeah. Okay. Let's see here. Oh, Dave, can you go over, sorry, what were you going to say?
I see that somebody was asking that they said the max capacity doesn't seem to be addressed. So I'll read it off to you guys. So for each studio, so Holiday, without a mask, it'd be 12 people allowed in the class. With a mask, 18. Sojo be 14 and 21. Sandy, 15 and 23. Draper, 15 and 23. And Cottonwood Heights, 16 and 24. So the first number was without a mask. The second number was with a mask. By the way, so we also see, I mean, I like to speculate, and nobody really has any answers to what this is all going to look like. But my sense is, because the experience has been very, very good in Utah, with the caseload, the number of deaths relative to what we've seen in other states. So for example, in Utah, I think we're at 61 people that have died from COVID-19. That number is 900 in Colorado. So our neighboring state has had a much worse experience than us. I think if things continue to look very, very favorable, they will keep lowering the restrictions in the coming months. And so we're hoping that this is a very temporary period, but we're kind of planning for, we just don't know, right? So we're just, a lot of the precautions that we're taking won't cease once the restrictions come off, other than capacity. So the capacity is the one thing that we're hoping for over time gets, that the restrictions get reduced.
Let's see, Angie, I think I can answer this question for you. You asked, what time are the classes? How many will there be in a day? And will there still be evening classes? I think what you're going to find is that there's probably more classes on the schedule, if anything. At Cottonwood Heights, which I think that's where you're still at, I believe they are doing classes on the hour. And yes,
that's correct.
The evening classes. Is that right, Sierra?
Yeah. Yep, that's right. So we'll be doing on the hour, 5 a.m. till 10 a.m. and then in the afternoon, 3 o'clock will be our starting class.
Sandy will be doing back-to-back classes as well for the Sandy members, and they're going to be seeing an additional class in the morning as well. So they're going to be seeing more classes on the schedule for sure.
Yeah, I think that was kind of like the overall consensus is with the reduced capacity, we wanted to make more classes available for everybody, and especially how all of our work environment is changing. It's possible to maybe add some classes where they weren't so popular before. Let's see. Jeff, you had a question. Oh, these are all great questions. So with the reduced capacity, even with the masks, will the at-home online workouts continue?
Yeah, so the answer is yes. They feel like that's something that will continue in for the foreseeable future, that we will have the at-home workouts. And they're actually working on an upgraded version of at-home workouts. So there's going to be live streaming workouts that are going to be available too, that are going to be much more interactive. They'll be a little bit similar to what Tennille and Britt and the gang, Nicole and David have been running with, the ability to kind of actually see the members and provide some motivation and some corrections. So they'll be along the lines of that. They're going to be working in some features where you can see the OTB screen, so you can kind of see your heart rate information up on the screen as well. And I think it sounds like it's going to be a mixture of like local coaches and then national coaches. So there'll be like a schedule where it may be a coach you don't recognize, but it's a dynamic coach, an Orange Theory coach, and then there'll be classes that will involve some of the local coaches. And they're also working on equipment packages. So these are, you know, they're not going to be the same variety that you would get with coming to the Orange Theory studio, but it would include things like the select a weight type dumbbells, you know, kind of like the Bowflex style, where you can kind of dial in what specific weight you'd like to grab for dumbbells, resistance bands, and other things that are pretty, don't take up a lot of space, but would provide us with the opportunity to provide a lot more variety to the workouts. So I think you've seen with the at-home workouts that, you know, they're very limited because you're relying on people not having a lot of equipment at home, or you don't know what specific equipment people have. So there'll be these live streaming classes that will say on the schedule, say, this class is designed assuming you have the following, you know, equipment. So some of it you may have on your own, but Orange Theory is also going to make kits available where you can kind of buy these little kits. One's going to be like a travel kit, so it'll be a very lightweight set of equipment that you can actually take with you, so that you can do it in a hotel or, you know, some other environment outside of Orange Theory if you're traveling.
Will you talk about the showers a bit, Dave? Like, when do we anticipate them being available? If yeah.
The showers, that's a county restriction. So they're only allowing showers to be used if the facility has a pool, and they're only allowing, even those facilities that have a pool, they're only allowing that shower to be used by the person who's using the pool. So they're basically saying anybody using a pool, and they're limiting, I think it's like one person per lane. And basically you have to take a shower before you get in the pool and then rinse off after you get in the pool. So it's, you know, for all intents and purposes, showers are like not allowed anywhere. I mean, so even the larger facilities like Lifetime and other places, they have very strong limitations on shower use, but facilities like ours are not allowed right now to have showers in use. Can I answer this question about fans? The overhead fans will be on. I don't know where that's coming from. So the fans will be on. The overhead fans will be on.
That was Jeanette.
So.
Okay. Oh, you mentioned the weight kits, Dave. Will we be able to buy the weight kits from your studio or from corporate?
That's going to be that's going to be a national site that you would go to, and you would kind of see the different options that you would buy from. It would not be available at the local studio. It would be shipped to each person from a national warehouse. And I think they're going to have that available probably, I would guess, within a month or so. But we want you back in the studio, so we want you to think too much about at-home workouts.
Hey, Tennille, you're muted. We can't hear you.
Thank you. Do you see any issues with people that have the unlimited membership getting into classes? At this time, would you suggest maybe going to the 8 or 4 class membership option and then increasing in the future?
It's, you know, I never want to mislead you, right? So it's really up to you if you want to kind of see what your experience is like, and then make that decision. If you want to do that at the front end, that's okay too. I think we've always honored this policy, even though it hasn't, honored this approach with respect to people that want to downgrade, even though it wasn't necessarily a national Orange Theory thing to do it this way. So in the past, the Orange Theory policy was if you were an unlimited member and you said, I want to downgrade, you'd have to go through one more billing cycle as an unlimited, and then you would then drop down to the lower level. I think we always honored having the ability to immediately go down to the lower level in their next billing cycle. And now that's going to be the national standard in Orange Theory. So if you're in the middle of your unlimited membership period and you're kind of seeing that, I might want to like drop down to an elite, we can do that for you. We can drop you down to that 8 times a month plan on your next billing cycle.
Hey Dave, going back to the process for members coming into class, let's see. Someone asked how early should they arrive to class? Will you go over that again?
Yeah, so no more than 5 minutes early, please, because we need that time to clean, and so we don't. And we also have to monitor where people are in the studios. So if we have everybody inside the studio cleaning, meaning the gym area, and we have all these people coming into the lobby and they're not necessarily paying attention to the social distancing requirements, it's going to be a tough situation for us. Plus, we have to scan everybody at the front door, right? So we also just can't have people coming in that haven't been gone through the verbal symptom check and haven't had their temperature taken. So anybody arriving, kind of talking out loud a little bit here. Anybody arriving more than 5 minutes early, we're probably going to ask for them to stay outside, and then we'll start. Once we have somebody attending to that front door, somebody on our team, then we will allow people to start coming in. And one of the things I explained in that video that'll happen is after you go through your screening process, you sanitize your hands, we are going to ask you where you'd like to start. And so, if someone says, I'd like to start on the treadmills, one of the MCs, member consultants, will say, okay, we have treadmill 3, 5, and 7 available. Which one would you like? Okay, I'll take number 3. We'll say, you can actually go inside the gym area now and you can stand by that treadmill before class. So that's going to allow us to ensure that we've got people properly spaced and that nobody's congregating and nobody's violating the 6-foot distance rule. So you'll actually be able to go into class early. We will ask you not to warm up first until the class starts, but you can at least stand inside the studio.
Will the bikes and striders still be available? And if so, how are members claiming those?
Yeah, it'll work in a similar fashion. So if you say, I'd like to start off on a bike, we would then cone off one of the treadmills to account for the fact that we've already have to account for the fact that you're taking an alternative option.
Haley asked, as far as like assigning stations, I think for the most part, people can pick their stations, but she said, does this mean they may start randomizing what station you start on? So there's no rush to get there early.
Would we select it for them, you're saying, or?
I think your question was, yeah, like, is there no rush to get there early because you're going to randomize my station anyway? Because a lot of people will get there early to get the station that they want.
It's really a matter of you still get to pick which area you'd like to start, and if equipment's available, you can take equipment. So if if you like to start on the treadmills, we'll say, okay, the only one left is number 7, for example, right? Say, okay, I'll take it. Or we might say, actually, all the treadmills are now taken. So you have to pick either the rowing section or the weight floor area. There was a related question that I just forgot here.
While you think of that, Dave, I'm going to answer this one really quick. It was a private message, but she asked, will people who live together be allowed to work out closer together? I think I can answer that one really quick. I guess the short answer is no, because it would throw off all the other stations if we had family members working out next to each other, because we'd still have to space it out. So unfortunately, no, it would still have to be like the odd stations, 1, 3, 5, 7.
And I guess I'll keep in mind, Tennille, that if I ever send you what I consider to be a private message, you will still broadcast that out to everybody. So.
I don't know if she wanted her name spoken or what, but we'll keep it anonymous.
Okay.
Noted though about you. Okay. What if any questions we have missed?
Hey, Tennille, there's a question on how to reserve a bike or a strider during class.
Yeah, so reserving a bike or strider during class. I think just spacing, if we have 3 bikes, we can use 2 bikes as long as we're spacing them apart. People can use a strider. And we're just spacing it out as far as, like if it's a 3G class and we already have someone on the strider for the first rotation and you want to be on the strider for the second rotation, we would just sign you up that way. So just like we did before.
I remembered my other point, Tennille.
Okay, go for it.
So I always tell my team, because it's I do this a lot where I forget what I was going to say, and I said my thoughts start off on a racetrack, and if they've left the starting position and I haven't gotten it out yet, I have to wait for that thought to come all the way around the track before I can get it out again. So a lot of times I have to wait like 30 seconds before I remember what the heck I was going to say. So related to this topic of, you know, what station can I get and all that kind of stuff, Orange Theory is looking at when you book your class that you can actually pick what's available in your station. So you can look at, you know, there'll be a chart there that says these treadmills are available, these rowers are available, and you could pre-reserve your station. So I'd love to hear your, you know, feedback on that, because they feel like they want to move in that direction to eliminate that log jam of that whole, they're trying to expedite the whole check-in process. So if you've already got it reserved, then you don't have to worry about getting there early, you know, all that kind of stuff, I think gets alleviated.
Ooh, I missed a couple questions from above. Okay, question number 1 is about the lockers. Will members still be able to use the lockers? What's the process for that? Yeah,
so, and you're going to see some variability from one Orange Theory studio to another, depending on some of the safety protocols they put in place. So, for example, electrostatic spraying is not a requirement by Orange Theory or by the state or local governments, but we're doing it. And as a reminder on that, it actually coats the surface and provides a protective barrier that viruses can't live on for an extended period of time. And so the chemicals that we use, they last for 28 days, but we're going to be spraying twice a month, just because, you know, the coating might get, you know, worn off over time as you go through different cleaning cycles. It's designed to withstand normal cleaning. This coating, it very aggressively bonds to the surface. So with us electrostatic spraying the studio, we're going to allow the use of lockers, and you guys can feel comfortable that any item you're putting in there, you're not transferring germs and you're not getting somebody else's germs transferred to your personal items. But you will see some Orange Theory locations where if they're not doing electrostatic spraying and they feel like they don't have the time between classes to do this thorough cleaning of the lockers, because they would have to be cleaned if you're not doing electrostatic spraying, they're going to be asking members to keep their personal items with them. So they'll be given like a Ziploc bag or a little shower bag or something like that, and they'll actually keep that with them during the workout. And you guys have that, you have that option to do that anyway. If you don't want to use lockers and you want to keep your personal items with you, you are allowed to do that right now.
Let's see, it sounds like everyone really wants to be able to pre-reserve their stations. That's good to know. Okay, if someone tests positive for COVID, are we notifying our members? Yeah, this is a topic they're still trying to sort out, and it's something I get very torn about, because think about when people go to the grocery store, they go to the pharmacy, they go to the bank, you know, wherever they go today that places are open. Let's say the grocery store. Are there people in the community that if they contract COVID, do they call Harmon's and say, hey, I was in your grocery store 2 days ago and I actually contracted COVID? Does Harmon's then go try to figure out all the other people that may have been in their store that day and try to proactively contact them? And do they shut the place down and say, we better throw away all the food because we don't know what that person touched and what they got, you know, what they coughed on, sneezed on, or whatever, and do just empty the place out and do this massive disinfectant cleaning? They don't do that, right? So our feeling is, by the time somebody's notifying us that they've gotten COVID, because it takes a while, right, for it to surface and then to get tested, we've probably gone through so many cleaning cycles by then that any presence of the virus in our studio is long gone, right? Because we've cleaned it so many times. We've professionally cleaned it. We clean after every class. And so there is no presence of the virus anymore in the studio. And so I don't know if there's any value in us contacting all the members that may have been in the class that day, because the other issue is there's no way to prove where you got COVID, because because there's that delay factor associated when you actually show the symptoms and then when you actually get tested.
how many other places have you been during that time? And so that's one of the hard things about this, is that there's absolutely no way to prove where you might actually have contracted COVID. And people have gone so many different places that it's impossible to track down. And so we're trying to be sensitive to the fact that that people this is a very sensitive topic, but I guess we want to reassure people that we've gone through so many cleaning cycles by the time anybody would have notified us that the risk factor is very, very low. And we would just suggest, I guess, that people, always every day kind of monitor themselves in terms of, are they feeling any symptoms? And if they're feeling any symptoms, we're asking them, please don't come to the studio that day. We need to really have people be responsible and kind of be self-aware and take proper precautions themselves.
Let's see. Sherry Vaughn just mentioned, I am a contact tracer. I don't know what that means. She said, can I speak for a minute about this? Is that okay if she speaks for a second?
Yeah.
Hey, this is Sherry.
Hi, Sherry.
So I work for the Utah Department of Health, and I work as a contact tracer. And so what that means is, if someone comes back positive, we ask them, when did you show symptoms? So if you showed symptoms, today's May 9th, they would ask them to go back 3 days before they showed symptoms and ask where they were. And so for those days, they find out, because you're usually most contagious those 1 to 3 days before you show symptoms. So say a member was in an OTF class and they said, 3 days ago, I was in an OTF class. Well, you guys have record to say, Don Joe was at the 8 o'clock class on Wednesday and on Thursday. So then what would happen is someone from the Utah Department of Health would call OTF and say, hey, this one of your members, gave us permission to tell you their name, and they're positive. And so sometimes they won't give the name. They'll just say, a person in this class was positive. It was your 8 o'clock class on Wednesday and Thursday. And so you would then have another person, you would get a list of all the people that were in that class, and then a contact tracer would call them and say, hey, somebody was positive in this class. We just want you to monitor symptoms. And a lot of that's based on risk. So because in the classes they're 6 to 10 feet apart, wearing masks, the risk, we would categorize that as no known risk. So, and I mean, your chances of getting it, even if someone became positive and was in a class, your chances of getting COVID would be so minimal, just because of all of the measures that are put in place. So we don't consider someone to be at risk unless they are within that 6 foot range. So if I'm within 6 feet talking to someone face to face, we're not observing social distancing, and we sit and have a 10-minute conversation and that person becomes positive, then I'm now in a high risk category because I have been within 6 feet for more than 10 minutes. Does that make sense?
Yeah. And I'm wondering, Sherry, if people are wearing masks the whole time, does that also suggest that the risk is that much lower?
Yeah, I mean, the risk is just going to be that much lower. I mean, if someone's, coughing and they're touching their face and their hands and things like that, and they're touching other things, I mean, like you said, with the cleaning process, hopefully that wouldn't transmit, but you can't say that the transmission rate is 0.
Right.
Do you know what I mean? There's always going to be a risk, but social distancing and wearing those masks, I mean, the chances of you getting it are so minimal, even if someone is positive in the class.
Yeah.
But that's kind of the process. So if anyone was to ever become positive, we would ask that person, hey, where were you the last 7 days? And then they try to figure out, okay, well, where was this person? Were they in contact with people? Did they go to work? Were they at a gym? And then they'll call and say, hey, this person was at your gym on these days at this class. And then we would get a list from you of all the people that were in that class.
Okay. And then would we be contacting them, or you guys would be contacting them?
The health department would contact them.
Okay. So a couple of comments, and I really appreciate this feedback. One is, I think this is why our type of operation is the best suited for, you know, the conditions we're living under right now, because we have a very structured workout. People are at very specific stations. It's all coach supervised. We don't let people kind of like just wander all over the place, right? It's all in a very orderly fashion. We have a lot of safety protocols in place. There's a lot of the cleaning protocols are at a different standard than what you would see at a traditional gym. And so, you know, we're trying to get the message across in general to the public, because I think there's the general perception of gyms are like this germ infested, you know, type environment, and scary sounding, right? And people think that you can get viruses through sweat, you know, and that kind of thing. So we're trying to do our best on a PR side to say our kind of operation, more boutique fitness, and specifically our kind of boutique fitness, is not the same as a traditional gym, and we operate completely differently. And just think about the whole cleanliness side of things. Where else do you find that members have always historically taken part in the cleaning, right? So we've always asked you guys to kind of clean up at your station, kind of wipe things down. And so that's not something that's foreign to you guys. This is something that's always been part of your routine. Now we're going to emphasize that a lot stronger. We're going to be giving actually more time for cleaning during transitions, and the coaches are going to be like Nazis in there in terms of saying you got to wipe down all your touch points, and we got to be very thorough, and we're not going to allow people just to kind of go, just do the zip routine. Everybody's got to take part in it, even though we then clean after the class, but we want to, you know, make sure it's covered during the transitions as well. But Sherry, I'm curious, like when somebody reports that and you kind of ask, well, where have you been? If somebody says, yeah, I was at Harmon's and I went shopping 2 days ago, what do they do?
So the contact tracing that I'm doing is actually just specific for businesses. So it's more for workers. I mean, in the case of Harmon's, that just would be too difficult. Right.
So that's what I'm saying. They kind of get a pass because it's like they don't have the records of people coming in and out. You know, it's hard to identify who was in there, who wasn't. So it's kind of like, so they kind of get let off the hook, right, on that regard, versus because we have a control process, we have class registers, all that kind of stuff, because it's easy.
Yeah,
it's
and
like
so unless there's somebody that's at Harmon's and I know that I was, you know, at Harmon's on Wednesday at 10 a.m. and I went through checkout lane number 2.
Right.
It's just really hard to make that determination, you know. And again, Harmon's has all those protocols in place too. The employees are wearing masks. They've got those shields up. You know, they're asking everyone to wear masks. I mean, I think a lot of places have all the protocols in place. And I just was getting ready to type on here, but I mean, for me, I don't have any reservations coming to class. So I don't know if that's helpful for anybody, but being on the back end of it, I don't have any reservations coming. I mean, all the protocols are in place. I mean, double, triple what is needed, right? So, I mean, I don't think the biggest risk would be those of us who like to talk. So that would be the biggest risk, is if you are engaging in a conversation with another member and you're closer than 6 feet for more than 10 minutes. So that,
without a mask, would you say?
Right.
Okay.
You know, but I mean, yeah, you want to wear a mask, but I mean, still just trying to engage and keeping 6 feet away is just going to be the best.
Yeah, so that's why these are all great comments. That's why you're going to find, guys, that the coaches are going to be very much to say, hey, you can't linger after class. We know you like to kind of go up and talk to the coaches. You like to kind of talk to your friends. And there's going to be, unfortunately, during this time, there's going to be a lot of like forced separation. And even the exit process, it's going to be group by group that have to maintain their social distance as they exit. You can't kind of then linger in the lobby after class. And so here we're trying to build a sense of community, and we're going to be like doing nothing but like trying to separate you all the time. But it's kind of unfortunately, the environment we have to live within right now.
Yeah, I mean, unless people just want to go out in the parking lot and chat, then that's left up to them.
Right.
I mean, really, that's what it has to boil down to, because there's just not the space.
Yeah.
Hey Dave, why don't we do like just a quick recap of like the booking, we're like when we're gonna start booking, coming into the studio, like quickly just doing like a timeline, I guess, of, you know, you arrive 5 minutes before class, you're gonna go through this procedure, that type of thing. If we can do that quickly, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, you direct something to me and you say it quickly. I mean, find that for me.
Just to like recap on everything, because we've kind of been all over with information, but yeah. So booking process is going to start out a week prior.
Okay, so just dates. So the email, you guys will get an email on the 16th, next Saturday, and that's to basically announce that you will be unfrozen unless you opt to extend your freeze. There will be, I guess they have a way of determining whether you open the email or not, because there's going to be another email that goes out 48 hours later to those people that haven't opened the first email. So there'll be another form of communication to people. And then on Monday, we will release the class schedule. So that's on the 18th, and we'll have a social media post leading up to that to kind of, you know, remind people about that. What was the other, and then what else did you want me to describe, Tennille?
So once they have booked a class, they're ready to come to a class, just the quick procedure, like they arrive 5 minutes early, they're going to come in and get a temperature scan, that type of thing.
And by the way, we're opening Memorial Day weekend, and we're going to add extra classes just to give, because we know everybody's like hungry to get back in. And so, and we deliberately opened on a Saturday to thinking that people have a lot of flexibility in their times on the weekend. And so we wanted to just give people that early opportunity to get into a class, and we're going to add some extra classes just for that weekend. And so, yes, then we're asking people to come in. Well, first of all, we're asking people before they come in, you know, do a self-assessment of, are they exhibiting any of the COVID-19 symptoms? We're going to have a poster that lists all those COVID-19 symptoms, so to the extent people aren't necessarily familiar with every aspect of it, we'll have it clearly laid out. So we're asking people to do that self-check before they come in. If they have any of those symptoms, we're saying, you know, please just call us and we'll take you out of class. There's no late cancel fees for anybody that's not feeling well, even if they call us 2 minutes before the class. Once you arrive at the door, there'll be somebody that is going to, before they allow you into the facility, we're going to be doing the touchless temperature scan. Anybody at 100.4 or above would not be allowed entry. We're going to be asking you to verify that you're not exhibiting any of the symptoms that'll be listed on a poster. So we'll ask you to read that, confirm with us that you're not exhibiting any of those symptoms. We'll have a touchless hand sanitizer available immediately for people to disinfect their hands. And then we're going to also either hand you a wipe or encourage you to grab a wipe before you go to your first piece of equipment. So even though the equipment's all been cleaned, as an added precaution, we want everybody to basically wipe down those areas again before you even get on the treadmill, wipe down the handles again, wipe down the screen. So that way it's just another layer of protection to say that I know this has been disinfected once again before I even touch it. And then we're going to ask you to go through that same process after you've used the equipment. So during the transition, we're going to ask you to do the same thing for any of the touch points that you hit. Is that enough, Tennille? Okay.
Yeah, that was great.
Oh, I skipped the part, sorry. So before you actually go into the studio, so once again, it's like disinfect your hands. There's going to be a person with a clipboard that says, where would you like to start today? So I'd like to start on the rowers. Okay, we have 2 rowers left, number 3 and number 5. Which one would you like? Say I'll take number 5. Okay, I'm going to write your name down by number 5. You can just go into the studio and stand by rower number 5. In this case, you could probably just sit on it too. We're asking, just don't get started with the actual exercise, but you're allowed to either stand by it or in the case of a rower, you can sit on it.
I think for anyone concerned about a 45-minute class like not being enough, I think they really have consolidated it well to where the warm-up is a little bit quicker, and then the cool down, it's not as drawn out, which we would like a longer cool down, but you are going to get a really good workout in that 45 minutes for those students that do have the 45-minute classes.
And even during the cool down, we're going to ask you to stay by your station. So you know how before everybody would kind of come to the open area, everybody's going to be asked to actually stay right by their station. And in the TRX area, we're going to have markers that define the 6-foot spacing that we're going to ask you to stay within. And the nice, the one nice benefit of this every other station is the way we've got things coned off. Each person will actually have 2 sets of dumbbell racks in front of them that they can select from, so they don't have to cross over into somebody else's space to get a dumbbell that may not have been available on their individual rack.
Hey Dave, will we have those masks available to buy before we open?
Yeah, so whenever we get them in, we'd like to announce it, and maybe we can have a process where people will, be outside the day before or something, and people can come check them out. If not, maybe on at least that Saturday, again, we can have a table outside and, have people see what they think of it, and if they'd like to try one out. Unfortunately, given the nature of masks, of course, we wouldn't allow returns with any of the masks. But yeah, so Kim's asking, I know Kim, that we expect that question from you about heavy dumbbells. Yes, the heavy dumbbell racks will be available. Again, we're asking people to be sensitive about, don't want 3 people going to the heavy dumbbell rack at the same time. And so I think everybody's very conscious now that 6-foot spacing, but we're going to, the coaches are going to have an eye out for that a lot in terms of saying, guys, no, don't get, one at a time, going to the heavy dumbbell rack. So they're going to be doing a lot of policing of that during the course of the workout.
I'm going to answer this question really quick. Someone asked about like the strider and bike, if they wanted to be on a bike or strider instead of a rower. We're still going to give priority to the treadmills, but if it happens to work out where you want to do a strider and bike instead of a rower, that's fine too. But priority will always be given to the treadmill first, just like it was before. Let's see. Oh, Dave, we answered this question. I don't even know if we've talked about this, but if a member decides to downgrade, but they have a founder's rate, if they decide to upgrade again, could they get that founder's rate?
They were talking about making that option available, and so I'm going to have to follow up on that.
Sounds good. Let's see, one more question. Oh yeah, and then Sydney asked this on the chat. Do we have any restrictions for people who have traveled outside of Utah 2 weeks before coming into the studio?
We don't necessarily. I'm talking a little bit off the cuff on this one, that if people have traveled to what's considered a hotspot, we would, certainly hope that they would take the time, whether it's 14 days. Sherry, maybe you can address this. I hear the period could be longer than 14 days before you show symptoms, but I think 14 is like the minimum that we would ask people probably not to, if they've traveled to a spot that's known to be a hotspot, we would probably suggest to them that they wait 14 days and make sure they're not experiencing any symptoms.
Dave, this is Sherry. So the recommendation currently right now is that there's not any restrictions to put people in quarantine or self-isolation if they've been in a hotspot. There are for specific countries, but that literally changes on a daily basis. So people would have to go to the CDC website. Because today there are no restrictions, that does not mean that in a week there will not be restrictions. So, I mean, that's just something you just have to keep track of off of the CDC website. But currently there are no restrictions. So if someone went to Washington or California and they came back, they would not be put under quarantine. But we do ask people, say you've been to California, you've been in a high area where they have a high infection rate, you didn't wear a mask, you didn't social distance, it's recommended that you would quarantine. But the likelihood of doing that is none, and there's no repercussions. Like, there's no police that are coming to your door saying, hey, you need to be in quarantine because you went to California.
What's the period that they recommend if you feel like you were in a very risky situation?
It's 14 days.
Okay, still 14 days.
Yeah.
Sherry, I'm going to have you on speed dial as my medical advisor throughout the process. So I hope you don't mind me calling you all the time.
Your info seriously has been so helpful. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay. Thanks everybody. Do we have any more questions? Hopefully we addressed them all.
Great questions, and I really appreciate you. These are great things for us to. There were a couple of questions that we hadn't thought through, so I really appreciate this feedback early.
Okay. Oh, let's see. Bree asked, can you review payment for May real quick?
I think it's like when they would get billed next. Does that sound right?
She said, will our cards be charged immediately?
No. So what happens is when you get taken off freeze, your next bill would show up with however many days were left at the time that we closed. And so the example that I use is, since we closed on March 17th, if you were billed on March 15th, then your next bill would show up 28 days after we open, because you've only used up 2 days of that period that you last paid. So very few people actually will get billed on the 23rd, even though that's the date that we're unfreezing your membership. So you would have had to, that would have had to be your last bill would have had to be 29 days ago prior to us closing for us to bill you on the 23rd.
Okay, looks like lots of people are hopping off. They've gotten their questions answered. And keep in touch, you guys, like on our private Facebook pages, because we do post up-to-date information there a lot. And feel free to reach out to your head coaches as well, because we can always get in touch with Dave. Or we could just post your personal phone number, Dave, if you want.
Sure. I love hearing from members. So.
All right, everybody.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, guys. Have a good weekend.